Broncos country, what is up? We are back for another episode, the Broncos Zone podcast, part of the Elevated Pulse Sports family of podcasts, by the fans, for the fans, diehards only. As per usual, I am Zach, and I got my main guys, Braden and Eric, with me tonight. Gents, we got a lot to talk about. The news has been going off. The reality TV season of the NFL is back. What did we have? Basically a 1 week lull, and now we are gearing up again. June 1st, that's always a critical time as teams can actually make some moves. We saw a couple different trades. We'll get into that. But this week, we are going to continue our deep dive series. Last week, we looked at the running back positional group. Go check out our YouTube page, any of our social pages. You can see the recording of that. We also got some good clips from that episode. This week, we are going to be covering the big boys up front, the offensive line. Definitely a big position of strength for us. So excited to get into that. Since 2023, this Denver Broncos franchise, with the Penner ownership group, has dumped over $341 million in total contract values for our starters, which is nuts. The third highest percentage as a group compared to as relative to our cap space in the NFL, just behind the Panthers and the Chiefs. So we're spending up front a lot for very good reason. We'll get into that. We got to keep Mr. Bo upright. Got to keep the running game strong, create some holes for the new stable of running backs that we've got. So excited to get into that. But as per usual, we'll kick it over to Eric for some trivia, and then we will get into the litany of news that is the NFL, not only for the Broncos, lots of news, but around the league. Eric, let's hit up trivia.
All right. Well, I figured since we're talking about the big hogs up front as one of our segments today, we're going to talk what the trivia question is going to be around first round draft pedigree. So since the year 2000, the Broncos have only selected 4 offensive linemen in the first round of the NFL draft. So it's a 3-part question. I think you guys will pick up pretty quickly on the parts though. So it's not too overwhelming, but essentially these are all going to be first round NFL draft selections made by the Broncos. So here we go. First part of the question: who is the longest tenured first round offensive lineman drafted by the Broncos since the year 2000? Who is the shortest tenured first round offensive lineman drafted by the Broncos in that same time frame? And then can you name the remaining 2 offensive linemen drafted by the Broncos in the first round since 2000? I do have hints. I'll give them if you need them. And I will give you a clue that on the third part, there is kind of a little bit of a twist.
Okay, so the 4 total players on the offensive line. So the longest tenured, I think, in their first round picks.
All first round picks. Yep.
Clady? I want to say Garrett.
Was Clady the longest? I don't know.
Ryan Clady is the longest. Yes.
Wow.
He was drafted.
He's just beating out Bulls, right?
Well, correct. So he was drafted in 2008, 12th overall out of Boise State, and he played 8 active seasons on the roster, but he was under contract for 9 years. So that's kind of the tick that puts him a little bit over Garrett. But I mean, man, what a player. I'm just reading here: 4 Pro Bowlers, 2 first-team All-Pro selections. Little side note, though, he missed the entire 2015 championship season with a torn ACL, but he did still get his Super Bowl 50 ring before he was traded to the Jets in 2016. What a
bit of misery.
At
least he got his ring.
Yeah, exactly.
And then who's the shortest?
Shortest tenure.
Is it I can't No, it's not Dalton Reisner. No.
I liked Dalton Reisner. I thought that was sad we let him go.
Underrated left guard.
Yeah.
Since 2000, right?
Since 2000, correct.
26 years with first-round offensive line picks.
And I will tell you, this guy was pretty close to 2000.
Oh, pretty close to 2000. So I'm probably not going to know. Considering I was born in 98. Yeah,
I mean,
first
could,
words.
Yeah,
Offensive
exactly.
line.
There's Elway.
I'll give you a clue. He went to the University of Georgia, if that helps.
Was that the hint?
Yeah, well, he went to the University of Georgia, and his tenure ended with us trading him to the Detroit Lions. That's the hint.
Graham, no, not Graham Glasgow. No, that's way more recent. Okay.
Is it did he play center?
No, he did not.
Dang it. I'm stumped, man.
I don't. How many games did he play? Or
no, he played 4 seasons in Denver, and he was a starter.
Did he also play for the Jets? Because that'll really narrow it down for me.
He did not also play for the Jets.
Son of a gun! I don't think. You know who I'm talking about.
I don't think he played for the Jets. Maybe he did.
Because I'm.
All right. While Braden's looking this up,
I'm not looking up the question. I'm just looking up the player that.
I'll even tell you who he was traded for to the Detroit Lions, and that was Dre Bly. It brought a corner back to Denver.
I don't know if that helps me.
Okay, it is the person who I'm thinking. Is it Connor McGovern?
No, not Connor McGovern.
No, that's way more recent.
That is recent. Yeah, he was on the. Yeah, I guess he wasn't as close to 2000.
All right, Eric, you have stumped us for the second one.
Yeah.
All right, the second one is George Foster.
I would have never.
Unfortunately,
first round pick, 20th overall out of Georgia. He spent 4 years with the Broncos. He was our starting right tackle in 2004. Started every game during the 2005 playoff run. Fell out of favor. Was traded to Detroit in March of 2007. That brought back cornerback Dre Bly. All right, so now we're on to the third piece. Can you name the other 2 remaining offensive linemen drafted by the Broncos? And I will tell you, one of them is just unfair. It's not fair.
Well, that's Garrett Bowles.
One is Garrett Bowles for sure.
The other one was not drafted by us.
The other one, I will just give you guys, is not an offensive lineman at all. It was a trick part of the question. It's Bo Nix. But really what I was trying to hint at, or trying to see if people would throw names out like Orlando Franklin or Zane Beatles. Those are the 2 names that I think people commonly think of, offensive linemen kind of in that 2010 year, whose names stick out. Quinn Miners, I think we all know he was a 3rd rounder. But also another really stud for us up front. So I think that was kind of a good intro into the offensive line. I know tonight we're going to dive into last year's offensive line. So, but I know we have a boatload of NFL news and Bronco news, and I know that what was it? OTAs kicked off today down in Dove Valley. So I guess we talked about this kind of before the show started. No news is good news, right? We didn't hear
injuries on day one.
Exactly. We didn't hear somebody tore their ACL or anything on day one.
Walking into the building. No twisted
positive.
ankles.
I'm hoping that new practice facility is really helps with the injuries. So
yeah. I mean, look, there's been some nightmare stories just coming out across the NFL. I get it. Like, it's not going to be your stars that are coming in day one, usually like in mini camp, certainly rookie mini camp. But I did read that 3 New York Giants have already torn their Achilles. Like, I don't know what it is with Achilles, but you might, there's something going around on the New York Giants team. They probably want to try to drastically avoid.
We need to get a sports doctor on here because the number of Achilles pops in the past 5 years has skyrocketed. Not only in the NFL, but across every sport. It was the ACLs.
Yeah.
Now it's the Achilles.
Yeah. I mean, my general not being a sports doctor, I think as people move faster and they're more athletic than ever, I think maybe sometimes when you're that talented, maybe you're not so into the fundamentals of things all the time. So you typically try to stay within your frame and not, so when you're taking a false step or you're changing directions, especially in that wide receiver position, and you're kicking out a little more than you should, and you have that change of direction. That's a lot of times that's what you see when an ACL or an Achilles tear happens. I mean, if you go back and look at the tape against the Broncos and the Packers when Bo Nix had that, that pump fake and kind of ran around and I can't remember if that was that really sneaky pass between the two Packer corners, but you saw Micah Parsons when he tried to make that last second change in direction, his left leg was out of his frame. So that's just generally what I see when an injury like that happens. And it doesn't surprise me that it's with the Giants. It's not really their star players who recently had those injuries. It's their maybe second, third string, or possibly even the make it or break it on the roster guys, maybe practice squad guys. Yep. So they're not as they're probably not as practiced. They're probably not as cleaned up on things. So I can definitely see that being some of the reasons why.
Yeah. Fair. Sticking with the Giants, because of all these Achilles tears, they signed 3 new receivers. New but old receivers.
Yeah.
I can't even do it because the catch was so incredible. I'm not going to be in frame. The OBJ catch, that's coming back to New York. Exciting little reunion there. Braxton Berrios and Juju Smith-Schuster. So the new old signings. We'll see if Harbaugh can recycle some good out of these guys. That OBJ hasn't played in the league in what, a year, 2 years?
That catch at the the flag football really got him that contract.
Right. What's the over under on all 3 of those guys actually making the team?
I think Juju makes the team. I think
he's solid.
He's a solid depth, third guy on the roster. He's not a number 1. He had a really good year on first 2 years on the Steelers. But I mean, now he's just kind of like, whenever Malik Willis, if he ever gets healthy, gets back on the field, I think he's a good third option. I whoever they have at the second option, hopefully he's better than Juju, but he can step in and play that role. He's played that role multiple times. So yeah, it's if Malik Willis's ACL takes longer to heal and he has to step into a more ball dominant position, that you're kind of worried about whether the passing game of that Giants offense is really going to be effective.
You mean Malik Neighbors?
Yeah. Who did I say? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Malik Willis. Okay.
Neighbors.
Well,
I got you.
Neighbors.
I'm following you. Yeah.
And they need Neighbors back. Neighbors was a stud.
Yeah.
Before he went out.
He's got to be the piece. I mean, I don't want to dive too much into the Giants, but their offense changed when he went out for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely did. All right, bring it back home. We're talking a little bit about Dove Valley. We've got new stadium upgrades that are coming here. So that'll be exciting to watch for once training camp opens in a couple months. But related to stadiums, the Broncos ownership group has purchased land, boys. We have got Burnham Yards. Is it going to be Burnham Yards at Mile High? Mile High at Burnham Yards? It's going to be Walmart. Say goodbye to Empower. Once that comes around, like Walmart Fields at Burnham Yards.
It'll still be
drop it in the comments. I'm going to shut up. I just want to see what the audience has got to say here. But I'm excited. We've actually got some land and we're moving forward, which is really, really exciting for all Broncos fans. Whatever the stadium is going to be, it's going to be state of the art, absolutely beautiful. We know the Penners are going to go big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll be Walmart Field at Mile High Stadium. They're not getting rid of the Mile High name. Absolutely not. You know how many people would just throw a fit? One of them, in the other room. A lot of people would just not be happy with throwing away the Mile High name.
I mean, it's part of Denver. It's not it's just not going to go away. So Denver's known as the Mile High City, and where the Broncos play will always be known as Mile High.
Oh yeah.
We'll say goodbye to Burnham Yards. He gets rebranded in 5 years.
Listen, I'm not interested in being the new Steelers. What's their not Worcestershire?
Heinz.
It was Heinz, and now it's something else that you can't pronounce. And it stinks.
Worcestershire Field.
Worcestershire Field. But yeah, I'm not interested in Denver going that route.
Yeah.
I like the comment. You don't need an official sponsor if it's Walmart. That's 100% true. We do not need the money. The Penners do not need the money. I just hope it's Mile High. I think that's a great comment. Okay, other Broncos news. We paid someone some extra money today in a deal that almost never happens. Eric, what happened with one of the star Broncos players today?
Yeah, that was I mean, you nailed it. A deal that almost never happens. You never see NFL teams that are just like, oh, I'm going to give a guy a raise because he's one of our guys. Well, that's exactly what happened today or earlier this week, I think, with Pat Surtain. He got a $5 million raise for this season with a potential for $5 million additional dollars if he makes an All-Pro or Pro Bowl team, which barring injury, that's a slam dunk. So a potential for him to earn another $10 million if he hits those marks, $10 million in total. And really, they didn't ask for anything in return. So that's kind of the amazing piece to this. It was the Broncos showing that, they're going to take care of their own, which really just speaks to how great of an organization the Broncos are. Their ownership group, the front office, the coaching staff, really everybody involved. Surtain, he originally signed a 4-year, $96 million deal back in 2024. And then he won the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year that year. The next season. So by that time, he was already the 5th highest paid corner in the NFL, while being the best defensive player. He was the 5th highest paid corner. So that deal, that one that he signed, that $96 million deal, it didn't actually kick in until this season. So now they've got him. When you add that extra 5 and potential, so the extra 10, they've got him now at $29 million per year on average. It makes him the 4th highest paid corner in the league, which to me is still a huge bargain for Pat Surtain. But I thought that was it speaks volumes to the Broncos and the organization that they are, and the leadership that we have on this in the front office is just second to none.
100%. When you have a guy producing at that level and for what you've paid, definitely giving a certain reward or letting them know that you really appreciate what you do for the team, even though you're not the highest paid player in your position. It's amazing, and it really shows that maybe that speaks to other members on the team as well. Like, do I take if I'm not getting paid the most right now, well, maybe if I have this super all pro season, that maybe ownership will help me out in some certain way within our contract. So I love it.
Yeah, smart move. I was listening to our friends over on the PhD show over on Altitude. They brought up an interesting comment that I don't think would ever happen, but they were thinking like, hey, you're kind of doing this as a sign of good faith to PS2. We know that the Bo Nix extension's looming, and we're going to try to potentially get Pat to take kind of a hometown deal and then pull him to shut that down like almost immediately. Like PS2's got all the leverage in the world. He is the top corner, whether he's paid like it or not. He's proven that the past couple of years here. But it's an interesting thought. The Brinks truck is going to be backing up in the next couple of years, and we've got to get underneath that salary cap. So it's going to be really interesting. The window, while Nix is on his rookie contract, is going to be critical. So for the next 2 years, like, we'll see what other moves George Payton can make. But I love this move right now. I think it's smart. You keep your top defensive player, leader in the locker room, really happy, satisfied. And you guys nailed it. Like, shows a good example for the rest of the players, which is exactly the culture that the Penners are trying to build here.
Yep.
Good move. Good move with PS2. All right. Other news. A good old friend of ours that used to be on the Broncos won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. We've talked about it on past episodes. Continues to lobby to try to join the Broncos. Braden, what's going on with Mr. Von Miller?
Well, I follow Mr. Von Miller as I suppose both of you do too. And it seems like every day he has a photoshopped picture or something set with a Broncos uniform on him and a number 24, because that's the number he wants to wear now. And I'm talking to you, Mr. Penner, even though I know you're not watching because you got the Broncos to worry about. But I'm talking to you straight up. Get him back. Get him back. All right. He would be a great situational third and long type guy to put in. And he had 9 sacks as a situational rusher. You're telling me he couldn't be second or third on the depth chart at the edge position? Even if he's third, he's probably fine being third. And just saying, hey, when it's 3rd and 15, we're putting you in, and your only job is to get out wide and just rush the quarterback. And maybe you sweeten the deal. Maybe you do $10-11 million a year just for that, which, for that situational rusher might be kind of steep. But hey, I would not mind paying that kind of money for Von Miller to be back.
Yeah, beat the drum for it. I agree 100%. That's look, anytime, and I don't care how long in the tooth they might be, anytime you could talk about adding a future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl MVP, franchise leader in sacks to your team, I don't know what the hesitation is. And by the way, he's on record as saying he doesn't care what he gets paid. He wants to be a Bronco. So I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some, June 1st, July 1st type of situations out there where they don't want to spend money before they have to type of things, or, I don't know what it is, but it's very hard for me to see a world where Vaughn's not wearing orange next year.
This reminds me of the DeMarcus Ware signing. Now, obviously, way different scenario. We knew where DeMarcus Ware was at in his career. He had never gotten to the big game and actually won a Super Bowl. Vaughn has 2 times. Props to him. I was super sad when he left the Broncos. I think everyone was, but you were happy for him at the same time because we were down in the dumps for 7-8 years. That's the type of presence that Von Miller brings. And so to add him, I think, would be huge. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. When the Broncos brought in DeMarcus Ware, we still had great depth at the edge position. So, like, it's very, very similar. Although I could also see, like, who knows what happens across the rest of the league? Does someone have a starter that goes down and we've got a nice piece that we don't necessarily need right now that we could trade for, like we did Devon Bailey a couple of off seasons ago, get either a high draft pick or an impactful player in return and add Von Miller? That is intriguing. And so that's why we might have to wait another month or two, kind of see what happens around the league. But it would be quite the cool return. And not only on the field, off the field, I think Vaughn adds that extra element and knows how to win a Super Bowl that the rest of this team needs to kind of get over that hump.
100%. I mean, you don't think he could be a great player coach? You don't think he'd be able to help out Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis?
Little tips.
Who we drafted relatively high. I think he was like a 3rd round pick. Something similar to that. He's kind of bouncing around. Is he going to be a inside linebacker? Is he going to be an edge rusher? I mean, he could even be a situational back and forth guy. Even Red Murdoch. I mean, you don't think Von Miller can't give tips to these younger guys and have them excel and be the best versions of themselves just by learning, these different moves and techniques? I mean, Ware even did this with Von Miller coming in. So, I mean,
well, there's a reason. There's a reason why Vaughn puts on a camp for NFL players, and people want to pass rushers want to attend that Von Miller camp because they know exactly what you just said. They're going to get shown the way. It's kind of like Yoda training Luke, right? It's showing him the way of the Jedi. That's what those guys are trying to do. They're trying to find any little edge they can to be successful at their job and be as good as they can at their position. And look, there's nothing wrong with picking the brain of a Hall of Famer, or watching him, or trying to learn from him. I think it's definitely the route that most guys in the NFL would tell you they would lean on if they have that type of support in a locker room.
Yeah, so we'll be really interested to see what happens in the next couple of months. Who knows? The backdoor negotiations. Maybe Vaughn actually wants a lot more money, and he should go get it. I mean, he did have 9 sacks as an older player in a non-starting role. He had an impactful season. If that number is right, it'd be something that I don't think we can miss. So exciting to see what's going to be happening there.
He did turn down Seattle
twice.
Yeah, he did it. He did it, I think, last year, and he did it again this year. He does not want to be in Seattle, and I'm cool with him not being in Seattle.
I love that because it's definitely like the competitor in him and said, like, they beat us up in the Super Bowl. I'm never going to play there. Yeah. I want revenge. I'm not joining you.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
I love it too. So it's going to be interesting. But tonight we're going to flip. We're talking offensive side. Before we get into our deep analysis into the offensive line as a positional group for this night's episode, a little bit of QB news. Bo Nix is good to go. Ready for training camp. heard it a couple times from different people within the Broncos organization. How are you guys feeling? I brought up Anklegate before. I'm knocking on wood. I don't want that to happen, but I really hope that Bo's ankle's okay. So much drama around, like, was this actually a routine cleanup procedure? Or no, something actually went awry in recovery. How are you guys feeling 2 days into June, month and a half out of training camp?
I mean, time will tell. I think obviously that's the key, but there's no reason to rush him back in OTAs and mini camps and things like that. But honestly, Bo's a young guy. I'm not ultimately that concerned. It's not like he had, even though some pictures online may have been posted where they were showing Alex Smith's leg instead of Bo. It's not like an Alex Smith type of injury. I mean,
No.
I do typically tend to believe, Sean Payton and Bo Nix when they come out and say, look, this was kind of a routine thing. And they've not given me any reason to not believe them yet. So I think he'll be fine come week 1. But I don't, that being said, I don't think there's any reason to rush him back either.
Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, sure, put him out there today. I don't care. If he's good to go, let him go. I think this whole offseason and the discussion with his ankle has been a bit of an embellishment. You look at those pictures and it's I mean, he's his name's Bo. He's kind of got Bo legs, like that's just kind of his natural stature. So when you see that picture online, I'm like, yeah, he's got some inflammation in his ankle, and maybe that's affecting other parts of his leg. It's no big deal. This is a regularly routine thing that happens even in other leg surgeries. They just want to clean stuff up. And I remember the day that picture came out. I think the next day he was sprinting. He posted a picture of himself sprinting. So it hasn't bothered me at all. I think it's just something that morning news talk show hosts need to put on their docket and and make some dramatization out of. Yeah. So.
All right.
I mean, an NFL player should be able to have surgery in, when was it, late January, early February, and be good to go by September. That's my thing.
100%.
With this injury. 100%.
Right.
Yes. I mean, people are acting like it's Dak whenever he broke his ankle at SoFi Stadium. It's nothing it's nothing close to that.
Right.
It's a little fracture in his ankle, not a complete break. So I think he's fine.
All right, we're feeling good. I'm feeling good. But a big piece of what made Bo so good last year is also what made this positional group great. Bo's ability to scramble and keep himself up and keep the play going, complete game changer for our offensive line. So let's get into it, guys. Deep dive into the offensive line. I think let's do quick overall grades, and then we can get into actual positions. Eric, what would you give the Broncos O-line in 2025 grade-wise?
If we're just looking at as a totality, I'd give them a strong, B plus, A minus. They were very good, and I would say B plus, A minus simply because of essentially one injury. There was one injury to Ben Powers that kind of where he missed that chunk of the season, and I think the prior year we didn't have any injuries up front, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really consistency to me. The ability to run the same 5 guys out there every week. It's just such a big deal to be able to do that in the NFL. So I think they were definitely a strong point for this team, and they were one of the best offensive lines in the league last year.
I love it. Strong grade.
Yeah.
Braden, what grade
So-
are you giving the O-line?
I'm going to give him an A. And kind of taking a different perspective on the injury thing, I'm going to include include the backups as well. In this, I think if you have a group of guys who work so well together, and I'm not giving it an A+ because you still let some guys through, and I think a lot of your success does have to come with the mobility of the quarterback and his ability to evade pressure. So but if you're able to be such a because O-line in general is a group position, not just a singular position. If you're not grooving together, you're letting everyone through. You can look at the Jets and the Browns for that. So when you're able to lose a central left tackle and then bring in not just the backup, but someone off the practice squad, and be able to not seem like you've lost any momentum on that O-line, I think you have to give them an A, just for keeping that momentum going.
Fair. I like it. I am also going to give them an A. I mean, not that many sacks allowed. I think it was like 6. The next closest team was like 13. Again, that's a lot of Bo as well, but the pass protection was incredible. Pro Football Focus had them at an 89.5 score from a pass efficiency and blocking. So number 1 in the NFL. So that was extremely impressive. I think overall, like Braden, like you nailed it. The depth pieces with Palcho, like stellar. Even near the end of the season, you had guys like Matt Parrott step up and provide that depth. For me, if I had to lower the graded all to where Eric's at, I think we all saw this shift. Once Ben Powers went out and once J.K. Dobbins went out, our run blocking was not where it needed to be. And ultimately, like, that's where we fell short in the playoffs. Granted, we gave up 10 points in that game, and the offense could only score 7. We also had a blizzard come midway through, and we didn't have a quarterback that the offensive line played with all season long. But that physicality when it mattered is where I would say maybe we dropped them down just a little bit. I'm excited to see this group completely healthy this year. And obviously the Broncos brass feels good about it. You make only one off-season addition to the group, which we'll get into that a little bit with Cage Casey. But we're running it back. We're running it back with the same offensive line. And we're getting older. That's the thing that, like, I think we should spend a little bit of time on, of like, where do we see some of our depth coming in? Garrett Bowles had a stellar season. Dude is worth every penny. I was a little nervous about Bowlesy when we first drafted him. It was a little inconsistent. He had a great motor. We're still trying to figure it out. Dude's been solid the past couple of years, but he's 34. So we were going into his 9th year. Eric, that was like so close with your trivia question. It was right? Him or
I know.
Clady. I was like, oh gosh, that's a difficult one. But he's 34. McGlinchey's 31. We'll come back to McGlinchey. That's Moneybags McGlinchey over there. Powers is 29. Waddenberger, center's 28. My favorite guy on the offensive line, Quinn Miners, is 27. And then, like, even some of our backups aren't the youngest guys. Where are you guys thinking about, like, the next stage? Where would we have to kind of backfill some of these strengths on the offensive line?
I mean, personally, I'm thinking right tackle. I or left guard. I mean, I think as good as they are, they're not in that Garrett Bowles or Quinn Miners level.
And they're getting paid like it.
And it seems to me whenever there's a sack, and maybe this is unfair because Bo Nix doesn't get sacked, but it seems to be on Mike McGlinchey's side of the ball. And that's also where you probably see more of a Max Crosby lineup. So I don't know how fair that is, but maybe I don't think it's impossible that with Cage Casey coming in, that maybe they start training him to be kind of a right tackle instead of a left tackle. I know they are going to mix him in, especially with the left guards, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you go, Mike McGlinchey's getting older. He's the one that typically gets beat around the edge. Maybe we start putting in reps for Cage Casey.
I think that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, you draft a guy, you're going to give him a shot, right? Just listen, bear with me for a second as we walk through this. I mean, Zach, you kind of touched on it. Garrett Bowles last year, 0 sacks allowed in 715 pass blocking snaps. Quinn Miners, 2 sacks allowed. Total pressures allowed 25. Mike McGlinchey, I've seen different stats. 2 sacks allowed, 40 total pressures. I don't know that the 2 sacks is accurate, but Ben Powers, 1 sack allowed. Luke Wattenberg, 2 sacks allowed. Now look, that's what 2, 4, 6, 7 sacks allowed by the offensive line, the starters, not counting the backups. Yep. A lot of that's Bo Nix, though. To be honest with you, he's the best in the NFL at not taking a sack. So you kind of have to take a little bit of, take some of that with a grain of salt. But I think your point about them aging is accurate. I mean, it's a concern because as we highlighted, earlier with the trivia question, we don't typically draft. We've drafted 3 offensive linemen in the first round since the year 2000. So we're probably not going to lean on the draft, at least not high, first round draft picks to find replacements. The guys who are getting paid, the 2 guys you mentioned, Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers. I think Powers is probably going to be the one that he might, if there are going to be cuts that get made, he might be one of those, kind of cap casualty type of guys. But it just depends on how comfortable they feel with the guys who they've got coming in behind them. They do a very good job of building that young talent up. As you could see with their backups last year, they had guys that came in and were able to fill the position and fill the spots. So I don't think it's like a pressing need, like they're ultra concerned about it. But I do think for as good as that front office is, they know that there's somewhere, in the back of their heads, they're saying, hey, we've got to probably start projecting, what are we going to do with this offensive line? Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but 2-3 years down the line, because I think it's going to look a lot different, certainly with just the ages that these guys are playing at.
Yeah, and if they do cut Ben Powers, it would be incredibly indicative that they feel really good about Palcho, and it may be rough in the first quarter of the season. I mean, we now have to go up against the Rams week 3. Yeah. And we won't talk too much about that, but you're going to need as much firepower as you can about that. So Palcho might be an option, and then that would also be a pretty good sign that they feel confident that Cage Casey can get it done and that he's going to learn quickly. I don't really think you can trade Powers. His cap hit's pretty high. So the Broncos, if they were to trade him, he's at $18.2 million. If that gets traded, the Broncos might have to cover a portion of that. But that I think would be the guy for me. I mean, he kind of ranks just in the middle of eligible left guards. Overall, like 39th out of 81. Pass block 49th out of 81. Run block a little worse, 45th. As we compare him to McGlinchey, like McGlinchey overall was 19th out of 89 on the right tackle, and was a much better run blocker, surprisingly, than he was a pass blocker this year. So Braden, that speaks to, like, if there was some guy letting edge loose to Bo, like it was McGlinchey, but on the run he was graded higher. So 2 interesting positions to really look at. The moment Sean Payton came in, he knew he was building from the inside out, and that started with the offensive line. I am totally fine investing there, especially if we're going to pay Bo the big contract. But we've got to start doing it sooner rather than later. If we continue to keep doing well, we're not going to have the high draft picks. Erickson, I think you're 100% right. So it's either going to be a trade or a crazy free agent pickup. Guys, remind me, did we have any big offensive linemen that were like that great in this cycle? I think maybe a couple. I can't remember going back to. I think they all went to the Chargers because the Chargers were just pathetic on the line.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants drafted a good offensive lineman, but no, as far as free agents go, I don't think anybody that probably the Chargers. I think you're right.
I think they took them all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing like that year we got McGlinchey and Powers. I mean,
Right.
offensive line wise around the league was just a killer free agency period. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Well, I don't see going back to kind of the O-line is a chemistry thing. You know, you're not a wide receiver where you have your own job. I mean, you do have your own job per se, but you're not out on an island at the X. It is a group, cohesive position group. So I really don't see when we are trying to get to a Super Bowl them touching the O-line at all this year. Maybe if there's just this massive loss in production between Powers or McGlinchey, maybe that something happens there. But as long as they stay solid and healthy, I don't think there's any way there's going to be a cut happening or a trade even during the trade deadline. I think with Bo being on his third year, you're aiming for the Super Bowl. You're trying not to tinker with what has been successful.
Yep. And where I was going with Powers is really if they were to look at him as kind of a cap casualty or somebody who they cut, during the preseason, that's clearly going to have to be because somebody stood out. They're not going to just cut him to get
correct
cap space. It's
not in a Super Bowl window.
No way.
No way.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing too we didn't talk about, from the starters' perspective, 23 total penalties. I mean, that's pretty darn good. I mean, I remember
much improved.
I remember a few years ago Garrett Bowles having 7 holding penalties in one game. So that's much improved. Absolutely.
Coaching. Zach Strief has done a great job. Sean Payton's brought in all the experts he possibly can to really help that group out. It's rare that we've got a group that's now going into their third season together. I mean, talk about pet misery about some of these other teams we continue to trash on. When you are constantly flipping guys in and out to try to figure out what makes sense, and then if you've got injuries, like it's no surprise that these teams just can't get anything done. Can't run the ball. Quarterback's getting eaten alive.
Look at the Bengals. They've had the same
amount of talent they have.
They have made just really good moves, especially like I forget his name, but the offensive lineman from the Buccaneers they traded for a few years ago, and they just have made a bunch of moves, really good moves. And it's like, what's remained consistent? Their offensive line coach. He's not good at his job, and I don't know how he maintains his job.
I mean, look, that's to me, because I think you're 100% right. To me, that's the difference between having an ownership group like the Penners and an ownership group like what's his name, Brown in Kansas City. Not Kansas, in Cincinnati. It's just vastly different. They're okay with not going out and spending top dollar for the guys who are going to coach that team, whereas the Broncos, they've shown like, hey, if we got to spend money to make something happen, they're going to spend the money to make it happen. So I think you're spot on. Coaching makes a huge difference, especially at this level, because look, everybody in the NFL, I've said this before, but they're all the best players that have ever come out of their high school. They're all the best players that, probably were on their college teams, unless it was like an Alabama or Georgia or something like that. But these guys are all stars. They've been all stars their entire life. And now they've reached this level where everybody's getting paid. Everybody's the same size and relatively the same speed. What separates them now? And it's coaching. That's really what separates a lot of these players.
I also think it has a lot to do with the Walton Penner group kind of having unlimited amount of money, being able to spend that, being able to pay Sean Payton whatever the dollar amount that he's worth, and he's worth every penny. Where you have teams like Cincinnati who are notoriously known for being cheap because they're not the wealthiest billionaire, which is kind of insane to say. But when you have an ownership group that is able to go into another league that is very deficient on players, outside of my favorite baseball player, Tovar, it really shows that they are very flexible with what they want and can do with their money.
Let's eliminate the salary cap. That'd be a ton of fun. I'd be fine being the New York Yankees of the NFL. We'd be fine.
It'd be Rams and Broncos every year. Let's just be real. It'd be Cronkies versus yeah, that's what it would be.
Which is ultimately Walton versus Walton, if you really boil it down.
Could you imagine the holidays? They're just like, oh, how many championships have you won?
I mean,
how much land do you own?
Stan Kroenke is on. I don't want to shift focus from the O-line, but Stan Kroenke is on like a legendary run right now with just everything sports has over the last 5 years has just clicked right for that guy. I mean, he's got the Rams, obviously making big news off the field. They hosted a Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl that they hosted. They're hosting another Super Bowl now. They've got World Cup games being played there. He's got Arsenal. I know they didn't win the EuroLeague, but they came in second and gave it a good run. That was a phenomenal soccer match. You've got the Nuggets, the Avs, the Mammoth. Do they own the Rapids too? I don't know, but I everything is just like coming up roses for them of late. So it's kind of a generational run for the Kroenkes.
Truly is. Well, I bet Greg is just like sitting there like, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Got to do this.
I'm here for it. We should all be here for it.
I would love that. Going back to the O-line quickly, I don't think we've talked enough about near the end of the year, Wattenberg goes on IR. We kind of glossed over Alex Forsyth coming in, and I don't really remember it being brought up in the media or any of the storylines by any of the in-game announcers. But dude played super solid, played a great game against the Chiefs at the end of the season. To get us into the playoffs and into the right seating for the playoffs, I should say. But I'm glad he's the backup center because that, for a lot of playoff teams, if you get an injury in that position and that chemistry with the quarterback can absolutely destroy what you've got going from a momentum perspective. So I'm glad he's there. I forgot about this. Of the offensive line moves we made, there was only one extension. It was Paltrow. We signed him to an extra 2 years this offseason. So clearly the team loves his versatility and dependability. So excited for him. I think that's a great opportunity to continue to grow. But Forsyth, I don't think is someone we can sleep on.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
He's a 5th round pick, but he's from Oregon and he's played with Bo Nix. And they have
chemistry,
good chemistry. You're not going to see a bunch of fumbles with those two. So I think he's the world's best security blanket when it comes to the center position. again, like Palcho, it's just there's not this loss of production. There's no loss in momentum on the offensive line when we have these guys coming in with some injuries when they come out for a game or two. It's a nice feeling to have when you don't feel like you're without your left leg going into the next game without one of your starters. Bowles might be a guy that I'd be like, hey, now I'm kind of worried, but when or Miners, I don't think you could ever replace the production of Miners, but
Not right now. No.
no, but if left guard and right tackle go down, and center, with those three positions, I feel pretty comfortable with our backups coming in and at least being salvageable for that offensive line, being able to be productive, serviceable.
I feel like the biggest compliment you could give to Alex Forsyth is the fact that you probably didn't even realize he had replaced Wattenberg.
Exactly.
Unless they called it out, you probably didn't notice it. And that to me is probably the biggest compliment you could pay to him, because the production didn't drop off. It didn't fall off. And that's, to me, that was huge. As we kind of got into the playoffs, to not see that level dip was really something that carried the Broncos. I mean, the offensive line was a strength for the entire season. So that's huge kudos to any of those guys that, came in and, filled in for any of those guys when they missed snaps or anything like that. There was just not a ton of drop off.
Yeah. That is, you're right. That is a great compliment. Probably puts a lot of pressure on Wattenberg, if we're being real. To have a guy come in and you don't see any kind of drop in production, you might be watching your back a little bit, seeing what little things you can improve on to be a better center. Mentally, because just cognitively calling things out, learning more, defensive shifts, and then also just your basic fundamentals, your physicality. So does Wattenberg kind of start looking over his back a little bit with the production of Forsyth coming in?
He might, and that'd be a good problem to have. We didn't get to talk a ton about Cage Casey, but I'm excited about him. 6'5", 310 from Boise State. So full circle from our trivia question. We're going back to the well at Boise State. Can we get another productive player like Ryan Clady? This is the youth movement. 22 years old, going to be a rookie. Let's see what impact he makes. I'm excited to see, honestly, like where we play him. More on the McGlinchey side, on the power side. It'll be telling once we get a couple games into the season when he's kind of filling in on some of those reserve snaps where Zach Strief and Sean Payton want to play him.
Yeah, I think they lean into his strength. I think it's very obvious that our pass pro, dominant guys are on the left side of the line, and our run pro guys are on the right side of the line. I think that's very obvious, especially with the stats you pulled up about Mike McGlinchey being really good on the run offense, especially Miners. You see highlights of him just with those downfield blocks. So wherever they think they can anchor Cage Casey the best, is he a better pass protector, or does he do better in the run game? I think that's where they put him.
Yeah, I do think, talking about Miners for just a second, there's probably not a guy who on our offensive line who is more physically imposing, I think, than him.
Agreed.
And so when you look at somebody like that, and we talked about Vaughn kind of being like a leader and taking the guy under the wing. I don't know that Quinn Miners will do this, but when you've got guys like that in-house, in the weight room, when you've got guys like that on the practice field, and you as a rookie get to sit and watch those types of guys, that can only make you better. And my hope is the fact that he comes from Boise State. Look, Boise State is a good football program. I'm not concerned. It's not like a super small school or anything like that. But Meinertz came from a super small school, and look where he is now. So that doesn't concern me. But the one thing I wish, and look, Quinn Miners is just a different breed of person. And I'm sure to some extent, every offensive lineman has that little mean streak in them. But man, that dude's got like a different type of mean streak in him when he's on the field. Off the field, he seems like a super chill guy, super nice, great interview type of guy. But man, you get him in between those white lines, and I would not want to be the guy that lines up against him.
100%. That is the identity of the offensive line, which is refreshing to hear. We've got some tough guys on the field, great guys in the community off the field, but that hopefully continues to be our strength going into next season. So let's see. Hoping for good health, no injuries. We've got the depth if we need it for a couple games here and there, but excited to see what the big boys up front can do, keeping Bo upright for this upcoming season.
And a great test will be week 3 against the Rams.
Well,
Myles Garrett,
maybe Aaron Donald. That'll be, that is an early Super Bowl matchup that will be decided by the trenches.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, we played the Chiefs week 1, so
yeah,
their defensive line hasn't, they're nothing to scoff at.
No, not at all. Well, everybody, thank you for joining another episode of Broncos Zone podcast on the EPS family of podcasts. Make sure, if you already haven't, like, comment, subscribe, follow on any of your social platforms. Share this with your friends. As we get closer to the season, we want to see a lot more participation with fans. We'd love to get you guys more involved. But really appreciate it. We'll see you next week as we dive into another position group with the Broncos. Have a good night, everybody.
See you guys.
Go Broncos.